Cowboy boots are some of the worst offenders of making terrible boots to sell to people that trust these time-honored brands. And they're charging hundreds and hundreds of dollars just to get a boot that's worth a fraction of the price. So over the last couple years, we've put 16 or 17 of the most popular cowboy boots to finally answer who makes the best cowboy boot, who makes the best value cowboy boot, which brands are using their good name to scam you out of your hard-earned cash, and ultimately, who reigns supreme in the cowboy boot world. So who are the contenders, starting with the most affordable, working our way up to the most expensive. Starting out at $195, Ariat. Ariat is one of the more popular modern brands of workwear, but keep in mind, this is one of their more affordable options. They also have boots like this at a lot higher quality, and they even got their bench-made stuff. But Ariat is really well known in the workwear and especially the Western wear world. Next, giant in the Western wear world, Justin. These retail for $200. Then to one of the most popular direct-to-consumer boot and shoe brands, but especially in the more heritage space, but recently broken into the Western wear space, Thursday at $220. Another new kid on the block with Rhodes. This is a Huckberry exclusive brand, retails for $250. And Huckberry is exactly what their slogan is. They're one-stop shop for all men's stuff. It's super high quality stuff, curated. Love Huckberry. Next to another Western wear giant, Tony Lama at $250. A giant in the Western wear world, but more for hats, less so for boots, Stetson at $265. Next to a modern brand that really took that direct-to-consumer style business and focused on Western wear and has really blown up over the last 10 years, Tecovas at $295. Then to one of the kings of the heritage boot world, Red Wing. This retails for $310. Next to Boulay, $335. This is the Durango for $340. This is the bull riding edition, the PRCA edition. Then to the most beautiful boot, the Los Alto at $590. Big jump from the last one. Then to Unmarked. This is a newer brand made in Mexico, trying to blend a lot of the old school stuff with modern technology. Retails for $590. Then to the brand that's known for making some of the heaviest duty work boots in the world, now started making a few cowboy boots. Nick's Handmade Boots at $730. Then to a very expensive boot. Keep in mind this is the elephant skin version, but this is the Rio Mercedes. Retails for $900, but they have a lot more affordable versions, so take it with a grain of salt in this video. Then to the self-proclaimed damn comfortable cowboy boots in Chisos. Got a couple different versions. Then topping the charts at just under $1,000, $995. The name in the industry that everyone said is so great and perfect in every way, Lucchese, $995. But we'll see. If you want to see a lot more in-depth version of all these boots, we got videos for most of these linked below, especially these big heavy hitters like the Luccheses. You might want to watch this video. And to give you some rough framework of how this works, some of these brands like Ariat, like I mentioned, have really high quality stuff. It's really hard to judge the brand as a whole from one boot because so many brands have so many different qualities, so keep that in mind. We're judging these through the lens of traditional cowboy boots, so a lot of the things that you see in traditional cowboy boots like leather soles, lemon wood pegs, we're putting extra emphasis on that, and some people might not care about that and want some other features. We're also judging off of material quality and manufacturing techniques. And keep in mind, a portion of this is gonna be my personal opinion and subjectivity, so your scores might be different from mine based on what things are most important to you and what you need a pair of boots for, but that's the value of this video. You're having all the information, every single layer, all the specs, all the measurements, all in one video so you can make your decision regardless of my personal opinions and subjectivity. And finally, to the rules, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through all 10 of the most important aspects of cowboy boots, scoring each boot from 1 to 10. Each category, at least one and only one brand can score 10. And at the end of the video, we're gonna compile all that information, figure out who won overall, who's the best value, my personal picks, and all the things you need to know to be an informed cowboy boot buyer. And this has so much information in it that I literally have to pull up a spreadsheet because I will screw this up 100%. I do it in every one of these videos. We got tags on every video, we got numbers all over the place, and there's a chance I'll still screw it up. These are all of our handmade wallets that we sew right here in the shop, cut out right here in the shop, and we don't use sewing machines. We do it the old school way with the saddle sewing technique that they use to make saddles instead of the sewing machine. It's one piece of thread, 2 needles, and weaving in and out of the thread all the various colors from tan, light brown, medium brown, dark brown, and black, but more importantly, the various wallets. So starting with the smallest and the first, the one that really launched the brand on Kickstarter, the Claude wallet, 2 pockets, 1 shorter pocket and a bigger pocket behind with the rolled edge so you can hold more cards. Same thing with the slim wallet, it's just a redesign of this. Same concept, 2 pockets, rolled edge for the bigger pocket. Then the Big Daddy version of the Slim, the SPB, that we actually made this pattern for the shattered backboard cut in half way early in the YouTube days, but it has 2 card pockets in the front and that bigger cash pocket with the rolled edge. Then to the Swayze, the one I use probably most every single day. So it's got 4 card pockets so you can really partition off and separate your cards. And if that's not enough card room and you want a little cash room, you can go to the Togo. 2 big pockets where you can store cash folded once and 4 card pockets. If you're old school, you want the traditional bifold. Same concept here, but you've got 6 cash pockets with these little hidden pockets back here and that cash slot there, traditional bifold. And the biggest daddy of them all, the travel wallet, a little spot for your boarding pass and your passport, your ID, all your credit cards, all the junk that you're gonna accumulate on the trip, even this little hidden pocket right there. So check these all out below. So up first, we're gonna look at the leather, scoring it from 1 to 10. Absolute worst, Los Altos. You know, it's kind of a gimmicky boot, but it's, you know, it's not even leather for the majority of the boot. It does have some cool, like, caiman skin, but overall the leather's pretty rough on this. I gave it a 2, and that's kind of your bottom of the barrel. Next, with 3 points, going with the most expensive boot in the entire freaking series, Lucchese. This leather is just not great. It's really loose and wrinkly. It's just terrible. It ages terribly. I think it is this calfskin, but it's just a terrible use of calfskin. Look at all the wrinkling through here. And it's not just wrinkling, it's loose grain too. You can see it's a terrible cut of leather. For $1,000, it's embarrassing. And the same thing with Stetson. It's 1/3 of the price, but the leather is really cool. It just was not executed very well. It's a similar story. It's calfskin, it's too stretchy, it's a terrible cut, terrible quality, posing as quality, 3 out of 10. Next in quality of leather with 5 points, I'm giving it to the Ariat, and to Thursday, and to Justin. Because all 3 of these are basically the same leather. It's all pretty good quality leather. You know, it's a wax style nubuck. It looks very similar, it's gonna perform very similar. Here's all your stats as we go along, so you have all the information you need. So I gave him 5 points. You, how much for this leather? I would give this 7 out of 10, Taco. Then with 6 points, we got Boulay, Rhodes, Tony Lama, and Unmarked. Just a little bit higher quality than what we just saw from those other brands. Not really worth going over. And with 7 points, we got Chisos and Tecovas. Just a little bit of a step up in quality. Chisos uses a hand-stained leather. Some people love it, some people hate it. Both really good leathers, have a lot more of the grain in them, higher quality across the board, 7 points. Then our second to best leather with 8 points, we've got Nyx, we've got Durango, and we've got Rio Mercedes. So Nyx is a lot more of a heavy duty work boot leather. It's gonna be too heavy for some people. It's literally twice as thick as most of the leathers on here, but it is a really high quality leather. They use bull hide, they use their work boot leather. It's about as thick and hardy as a cowboy boot leather you're ever gonna find. But because of that, I didn't wanna give it 10 because some people, it's way too much, it's way too overboard. Durango, I just love this leather. I love the whole patterning of the upper. It's a little bit of a subjective bump because it's still like a high quality leather. So it gets a little bit of a subjectivity bump, but it's a nice bull hide. It's high quality in the upper. I love the stitching. Similar story with Rio. It's just a lot higher price leather because it says elephant skin. If you want to see that video, YouTube completely tanked it. If you want to see a lot more information, I thought it was really cool. I thought we really explained the pros and cons of elephant skin. Either way, all 3 of these, 8 points. And winning it all for the 10-point must scores system here, Red Wing. This is just some of my favorite leather in the world. They're vertically integrated. This comes from the SP Foot Tannery, I believe. And some people, you know, they're gonna love a lot more like this, you know, more traditional. The thing I like about it is it's a heavy duty leather, but it's still something you could wear casually. It's not ridiculously thick, it's not too thin, it still looks Western, and for me, this is what I'm looking for in a cowboy boot, even though a lot of people are like, it has no flair, and a lot of people prefer something like this. But objective quality of leather, while still balancing in wearability, comfort, aesthetic, I think Red Wing's the easy choice. Next to one of the most important parts of a cowboy boot, the internal heel counter right here. Every cowboy boot slips in the heel because they're cowboy boots. And because of that, you get a lot of wear through here, and it can wear through really quickly depending on if you have something as cheap as fabric all the way up to really heavy, high quality veg tan leather. So worst, once again, Los Altos. Keep in mind, kind of a gimmicky boot, so I'm sure they've got some other quality boots, but it's just a really cheap, really thin, almost like paper thin heel counter with some really terrible leather. Then tied for 3 points is the Ariat and the Justin. The Ariat does technically have leather, but it's really thin, really flexible. Actually, no, it's not, it's fake leather. I take it back, sneaky. Fake leather and fake leather, so 3. Next with 4 points, we've got Stetson, Tecovas, and Boulay, because this is just about as thin of a leather as you can put in the heel. It's basically the lining leather, just flipped the other way around, so at least you do get some grip, but it's gonna wear through a lot faster than some of the other higher end stuff like we see in veg tan leather. Next with 5 points, Rhodes and Thursday, just a slightly better leather in the heel. Then we got a 4-way tie for 6 points with Durango, with Tony Lama, Red Wing, and Nix. All a lot better quality leather, a little bit thicker. The Tony Lamas is technically veg tan, but it's a lot thinner than what we'll see in these better boots. But the leathers are a lot thicker, a lot higher quality, a lot more substantial, gonna give you more wear for a lot longer period of time. 6 points. Then tied for 9 points, we've got Chisos with a super thick, look how thick that is. Big, thick slab of veg tan. And it's even backed with the veg tan heel counter. Similar story with the Rio Mercedes, nice thick veg tan heel counter. Same thing with the Lucchese's, but the Lucchese's a little bit thinner than the other two. But either way, awesome veg tan heel counters. This is what you want in a cowboy boot because it's gonna take you years to wear through that much leather. That's why they make saddles out of veg tan leather. And since there can only be one 10-point score, shout out to the biker gang next door. These are almost identical. You've got the Unmarked and the Chisos, both with a nice thick layer of veg tan, backed by another layer of veg tan. So it really came down to splitting hairs, and I just barely gave the edge to Unmarked. Next to the construction techniques, how the boot is built, and keep in mind we're basing this off of durability and the traditional cowboy boot way of doing things. And Ariat did not do it. 1 point for Ariat because it's just a cemented construction. It's just glued together. These stitches are fake, so it makes it look like a higher quality cowboy boot when it's not. Once again, I'm actually a big fan of Ariat. They make a lot of really good stuff. They make affordable stuff and higher quality stuff. We just happened to review one of their cheapest cowboy boots. So not every Ariat cowboy boots like this. Go watch some of the other videos we've done. Tied for 3 points, we got Stetson, Justin, and Boulay. Just a little bit rougher around the edges, you know, it doesn't have quite as much traditional, like with the lemon wood pegs, the brass nails, you know, the different styles of outsoles. Just a little bit sloppier, just a few issues here and there that maybe give them 3 points. It's pretty tough when you're splitting hairs on some of these boots because they're so similar. Next with 4 points, we got Thursday and Los Altos. Next, we've got Rhodes and Rio of Mercedes. Getting a lot closer, getting a better quality here and there, a lot better finishing. Still missing some of the important stuff like the lemon wood pegs, and obviously that only matters to some people, and I actually prefer a rubber outsole compared to a leather sole, but we're looking at traditional cowboy boots. Then for 6 points, we got Red Wing, Lucchese, and Tony Lama. Once again, Lucchese scoring very mid for a $1,000 boot. Then with 7 points, we got Nix and Durango. Nix, to a lot of people, would score 10 out of 10 across the board for a lot of things because these are basically, they're actually exactly a Pacific Northwest boot with the cowboy boot upper on it, which is really heavy duty, really traditional, really old school, but it is also really heavy. It's not the most traditional looking boot because you've got 2 layers on the inside, so the toe is pretty tall. You know, it's a Pacific Northwest cowboy boot, and because of that, even though it's arguably the most durable boot on this whole lineup, give it a 7 because it's not quite traditional cowboy. And honestly, same thing with Durango. But I really like this style of construction. It is really unique. The thing I like most is the double layer of veg tan in the forefoot. It's like a blown rubber, really hard rubber shank that's like 1/2 inch wide. These are specifically designed for riding, and I love the heel on this. I love the construction. It's pretty traditional. Just plenty of room for improvement. There's a lot in here that I would suggest not doing, but I like it a lot, and it feels really, really good underfoot. Then tied for 2nd place with 9 points, Tecovas and Chisos. About as good as you can get. You know, lemon wood pegs and brass nails, Goodyear welt construction. When we get to these higher echelons of boots, you really start looking and make sure the welt is actually tied to the insole underneath, unlike, you know, these more cheap boots like the Tony Lamas where you've got a canvas skimming on the inside. Really start splitting hairs out when you get to this point. Look at all the veg tan leather in this boot. Look at all the traditional ways, cork filling, steel shank. You could give this point to like 3 or 4 of these boots. But number 1, best construction, Unmarked. Just slightly better in a few ways, more traditional, more cowboy, a little bit better heel stack here and there, lemon wood pegs and brass nails. It's just done construction-wise about as good as it can get. Then to one of the things that I think people don't care about, but they should, it's like a make or break thing for cowboy boots. It's the shaft seam right here. And not just up the shaft, but even all the way tied down into here, because this will really rub your leg raw. It's really uncomfortable, and there's a lot of different ways that brands can deal with it. And so just a raw edge like this it's not terrible. A lot of cowboy boots are a bit like this, but there's a lot more comfortable and better ways of doing it. So worst of the bunch, the most expensive boot at $1,000, Lucchese. I gave this a 2 out of 10 because it's just a typical raw edge. You know, it's not particularly sanded down really tight. But more importantly, this hard lip on that veg tan leather is flipped out. So you have to wear that completely flat before that starts to get comfortable, and I can feel it on my foot. And so that is crazy to me, because you look at some of these boots that are half the price, but twice the quality, they tuck it in, they zigzag seam it together. They try to make that as seamless as possible, because that is a high pressure point on a really hard piece of leather. And same exact story with the Tony Lamas. It's basically exact same. Raw edge with this veg tan flipped out. 2 points. 3 points, Los Altos and Rhodes. Similar story, just not with the veg tan on the inside. And then we got a 4-pack of 4 points with Ariat, Boulé, Stetson, and Durango. Slightly improved. Then 2 of the most expensive boots with just 5 points. Rio of Mercedes and Unmarked. Same exact situation. You see that veg tan's flipped out right there. That is just a high pressure point right there. It's crazy to me that this expensive boots do that. Because you can see like that will hit your heel, at least it does with me. And it takes a couple weeks to wear. And basically the same story here. For $1,000, you think you'd at least finish the edge. And like this Unmarked this seam is really tall. With 6 points, Justin and Nix trims this down because this leather's like 3.5 millimeters thick. So to just sew it together, they trim the edges down, make it a little bit thinner, and then sew it so it creates this little recess. Pretty smart, but it's still suffering from the same problem every other boot that we've seen does. With the Justins, they put a little piece of fabric over top, smooth it out just a little bit, but still not really fixing the problem. It's surprising how few boots have that solved, actually. With 8 points, Red Wing and Thursday, similar, but this is actually out of a piece of leather, and this is a lot better way of flipping that seam to the inside. It looks a lot cleaner, it feels a lot flatter, a lot better way of doing it. 2 distinct ways though. Second place, Tecovas, very similar to the Thursday. I just gave it 1 point above because it seems like it's a little bit flatter. It doesn't quite rub as much. And number 1, flattest, most comfortable seams all the way through, Chisos. This seam right here, perfect. About as flat and seamless as you can get rather than having it flipped out. This zigzag stitch makes it really, really flat so you're not overlapping leather. You have it like butted up. Great counter material. This is just about as comfortable of a seam and construction as you can get. Next is something that most people don't ever realize until their boots wear out prematurely because of their terrible linings. Worst 1 out of 10. The most expensive boot, once again, Lucchese, $1,000. And this is the lining you put in your boots? That is insane. Look how terrible that is. Crazy, to put this in a $1,000 boot, this terrible, this loose, this easy to rip and tear apart, like you should be able to rip your leather by hand, like without any issue. That is crazy, terrible, terrible. So adjusted to 1 point specifically because it's a $1,000 boot. Embarrassing, Lucchese. Similar story with Los Altos and Tony Lama. Similar quality as the Lucchese, but they're not $1,000. Next with 3 points, Ariat, Rio, and Stetson. 5 points for Boulé. 6 points, Unmarked and Durango, getting a lot better, but you can still see they're using a little bit cheaper materials in some of the lining aspects. Not terrible leather, but definitely not the highest quality, especially on these Unmarked. Lining is also one of these things where like it's a hit or miss. Like they don't really cut as efficiently as they do with other parts of the boot. So it's something that depends on the boot. If you're really concerned about it, just look inside the boot before you buy it. Then with 7 points and almost identical lining leather is Tecovas, Thursday, and Rhodes. It looks identical, it's about the same thickness, it's probably similar tanneries. It's gonna last about the same, so 7 across the board. Then to the second spot, we got Nix. This is a pretty good leather. It's still got the grain in it, it's nice and thick. Just a nice hardy leather. It's still lining leather, so it's a little on the thinner side, but that's what you want for lining leather. But number 1 with the most points again, Chisos. It's just a really high quality leather. You do get a little bit of bunching here and there, and this leather does rub off on your white socks. But out of all the boots, I think this is the highest quality lining. You could maybe put Nix above and maybe some of these other ones, but the Nix is also more of a Pacific Northwest boot than it is a Cowboy boot, and so it kind of behaves that way. The lining's that the same way, especially where it's unlined in the shaft. So, Chisos again. Next to what you're actually standing on, the foundation of the boot, the one piece that's the hardest to replace, so if you screw it up or if you wear it out prematurely or buy a cheap enough boot, you will regret it over the long term. Starting with a 1 point Stetson. This is just, you're standing on like cheap foam, and a really cheap, like worse than most sneakers, fiberboard. Terrible. And Stetson is like one of the top brands in cowboy hats. So you think they'd figure out cowboy boots, but they didn't. Then to number 2 points, Ariat, Boulé, and Justin. Seems like we're kind of seeing a trend here. A lot of these boots are ending up in groups together in all the different categories, especially like these more affordable boots. They're not terrible, but they're far from great. It's just a typical pink fiberboard you see in more traditional or more affordable footwear. Usually you see it in like $300 and under footwear. It's still a good material. It's still really useful for a lot of things, but it's not the highest quality, and it's pretty far from traditional. With 4 points, we've got Thursday, Red Wing, and Rhodes. This is more of your modern, semi-heritage style construction that Thursday really, really popularized, where you've got that leather lining, but then you have a softer material underneath with a couple layers of foam and then some fiberboard. Same thing with the Red Wing, just a little bit heavier duty. But the crazy thing about this, they don't put any fabric or any leather on top of this soft, squishy pour-on style foam. And once you start wearing that out, you've worn out the foam that's tied into your insole, which is a fiberboard. I don't know why they do that. It blows me away that Red Wing still does that. And then Rhodes, similar story, layer of leather, foam underneath, lasting material. Very comfortable, not very traditional, easy break-in, fairly durable, not nearly as durable as a veg tan leather, but it's significantly more comfortable unless you have one of these boots like Chisos that comes with an insole pre-built in, so you've got the actual room in the toe box for an insole. Then with 5 points, Nicks, because this is about as good as it gets, but keep in mind, you know, we're putting it through the lens of a cowboy boot, where with the Nicks, you've got an additional layer on the inside because it's a stitch down construction rather than a Goodyear welt construction. So instead of having an outsole layer and an insole layer, you've got an outsole layer, a midsole layer, and an insole layer. And like I said, it's a stitch down construction rather than Goodyear welt, where this is tied in underneath there to the actual insole, where this is sewn down through the outsole layer. So just different. Once again, this easily could be the most heavy duty, highest quality in terms of durability boot, but this video is about true cowboy boots. Los Altos, 6 points, and 7 points, we got Tecovas and Tony Lama. Tony Lama's pretty traditional. It's just you're standing on that veg tan on the insole, you've got that heel patch right there, but you got some cardboard and you've got some weird stuff going on. It's a little bit sloppy, a little bit rough on the inside. The Goodyear welt's tied in there pretty terribly. And then with Tecovas, it's actually really, really good, really unique. The thing that's unique about the Tecovas is you basically take the Tony Lama and put a permanent layer of soft squishy foam and leather on top of that. And so you get a lot of the features of that veg tan on the inside and the veg tan outsole, but with a little bit of comfort and squish, similar to what we saw with the Rhodes and the Thursdays, but more traditional. The downside of that is it's not removable, so if you wear out that layer, just like we saw with the Red Wings, it's gonna be a little bit of a pain, rather than having a removable insole like the Chisos or the Boulets. But I like this one a lot. Tecovas is really, this is a unique take on the cowboy boot. It kind of blends Thursday with Tecovas, with traditional. It's done well. Next with 8 points, we got Lucchese and Rio. It's here, once again, we're getting to the point where we're starting to split hairs. I'm starting to look at like how well is it finished, how lumpy is it, how poorly is it sanded, how many issues like this Rio boot where you can see right there, that Goodyear welt into the actual insole. It still blows me away that these two boots are $1,000 and they're this sloppy on the inside. And number 2 with 9 points, Chisos. You might have thought I'd choose this as number 1. I think you could easily choose it as number 1. But if you compare it to the Unmarked, which I chose as number 1 with 10 points, you know, the Chisos is a little bit more roughly sanded through here. It's a little bit more lumpy. They're very, very similar. Like you could choose one versus the other and be just as justified, but just a little bit better on the Unmarked. So I gave them 10 and Chisos 9. Then 2 outsoles, which you're actually standing on. And this is one where people have a lot of different opinions. I personally like a lot more rubber outsoles for cowboy boots because I hate sitting around all over the place. But it's not very traditional, and having that veg tan leather on the outsole's the way to do it. But rubber is not the traditional cowboy way of doing it. So you'll have your own subjective opinions of this, but number 1 worst with 1 point is Ariat once again. But keep in mind, I said it like it 3 times, but it's because Ariat does make really high quality stuff as well as affordable stuff. They've got plenty of options like hybrid sole, rubber, leather versions. They've got full leather versions, but this particular model that's only under 200 bucks is just a rubber outsole. And it's not even, I think it's just glued together. It's not like, it doesn't have any nails going through it. And it's clearly a different top lift from the heel stack to the rest of the outsole. So just pretty rough. Number 2 with Boulay, fake heel stack, just a rubber outsole. Some people would really like this, but it's not really reinforced anywhere. And so you're really just standing on that really soft rubber and then a really weak fiberboard above it. Next with 3 points, the Justin and the Red Wing. Once again, I love the rubber outsole, but it's not traditional, but it's also got that kind of plastic heel stack, a big rubber top lift, which for work, some people are gonna really like because leather swells and it's really susceptible to water damage and it's heavier. And with the Justin's fake leather heel stack and kind of rough all the way around. 5 points, Rio Mercedes. Doesn't have much leather at all except for the heel stack, but you can choose boots that do. With 6 points, we got Tony Lama, Thursday, and Nicks. Tony Lama's, you've got a fake leather heel stack, pretty thin top lift, and then a leather outsole. The Thursdays do have a full leather heel stack, but it's a rubber outsole without much supporting it, similar to the Boulets, but it does have 1 extra layer to give it a little bit extra rigidity at the forefoot. Similar story with Nicks, you got that big rubber outsole, but you also have that leather midsole, so it's not the most traditional, but this might be the best heel stack of the entire lineup. Because this is a Pacific Northwest style heel stack where instead of having individual layers like the Unmarked, where you can see right through here, it's sanded down and it's terraced down, where this is a bunch of independent layers that are first skived down to thin layers and then sanded. So you've got a lot more layers of leather laminating everything together without breaks in it, kind of like you have here. That's probably the best heel stack in the entire bunch. Then two Stetson Rhodes and Los Altos, pretty good. Leather heel stack, leather outsole, just a little bit rough around the edges on all three of these. Then with 8 points, we got Tecovas and Lucchese. Once again, we're getting to the point where we're really splitting hairs and trying to look at how they're finished, how clean they are, if they're channeled or if they're not channeled. Full leather heel stacks, full leather outsole, lemon wood pegs and brass pegs, channeled outsole. But the number 9s, which are Chisos and Unmarked, just a lot higher quality finishing on it. You know, I really like the waist on this. I think this looks really, really good. And both of these are about as traditional as it gets, you know, both really high quality. You could point to a couple of these that have double layers of stitching in the Goodyear welt to be better in certain ways. But either way, the top 5 are really, really high quality because they're all leather outsoles with full leather heel stacks. So then who is number 1? I really, really like this Durango outsole. And so I put it as number 1 because it's my personal favorite, and so it's very subjective. But I love that you've got a rubber top lift, a full leather heel stack, but the rubber top lift is chamfered like this so that you don't prematurely wear that out and then you start getting the leather. You've got, in a way, you've got twice the amount of wear because you don't have that stopping so early. It's a full leather heel stack in the heel. It's a full leather outsole, double layered of stitches all the way through, leather Goodyear welt construction. It's channeled. You've got the brass nails, lemon wood pegs. But the thing that I like most is they've doubled up the layer of leather in the forefoot. So you've got this whole veg tan outsole, but then you've got another little bit thinner layer of veg tan right underneath the ball of your foot. And I like this because I feel like, you know, some of these cowboy boots are so thin and so flexible. And then, you know, the upper echelon of things, you got way too much bulk in there. I really like how that stabilized this boot by having just a single layer of leather right there. But more than anything, I just love this top lift and this outsole. But some of you might rank that as like number 5. So take it with a grain of salt. Next to the guts of the boots, everything you can't see unless you literally cut it in half like we do. And thank you guys for your support. The only reason we've been able to cut, that's probably like $5,000 of boots at least. The only reason we've been able to do this is because you guys support us with our handmade leather goods. You support us with our collaborations that we do so that we can afford to buy brand new stuff to show you what you're actually buying and show you these inside components that nobody really gets to see, like with these boulets where you've got a lot of shank lift right there. That is a big gap that's gonna be in your boot. It's gonna cause a lot of weird flex. It's not gonna be as supportive as you want it to be. And it's just really loose, it's really sloppy. It's just pretty rough on the inside. Same story with the Ariats. Poor Ariat. They make great cowboy boots, okay? We just chose the worst possible one. Sorry, Ariat. Next, for pretty obvious reason, Justin and Stetson, foams and mismatching materials, gaps throughout it, just kind of a mess. Number 3, Los Altos, pretty sloppy. 4, Thursday, a little bit loose on the inside, a little bit sloppy, kind of some mismatching components. It's still built well. It's just not quite as well built as some of the other Thursday boots that we've seen. With 5 points, we got Rio, Rhodes, and Durango. Just a lot of synthetics on the inside. You know, you've got some foam that some people are not gonna like, some sneaker style materials. Even though I love the Durangos, it is kind of all over the place. You've got this weird layer of leather right there that's above that layer that I love. You got foam on the inside, you've got another layer of foam. You've got this really cool shank that I actually really like because it has a little bit of give in the shank and it feels really good. But then you've got like a really hard cardboard that doesn't run all the way through. You know, just a little all over the place. But most of these boots, except for the Rios, are on the more affordable side of things, and that's what you should expect from more affordable boots. Then to Red Wing, Lucchese once again, and Tony. It's crazy that Tony Lamas are like, how much are these? Under 200 bucks. These are $1,000, and if you look at the insides, they're not that different. You know, they're still high quality. You've got a lot of veg tan on the inside, a lot of quality, but it's just really rough. You know, they just kind of make a mess of the entire thing from the lining all the way down. And then Red Wings, I just once again, I can't believe that they let you stand on a piece of foam all day, every day, on a boot that's made to be rebuildable, recraftable. It's so out of character for Red Wing because most of what they're known for is that really heavy veg tan insole. But on these boots, they have you standing on foam. It is insane to me because that's going to wear out so much faster than a piece of veg tan. Whatever, Red Wing. Number 7, once again, you could easily say this is the best one. It's the most durable. It's the most over the top, which is awesome for Pacific Northwest, like logging boots, firefighting boots, heavy duty work boots. But for a cowboy boot, it's a lot. There's just a lot on the inside. It's not the traditional thing that we talked about with the Goodyear welt. You got all the bulk on the inside with that additional layer. You've got that crazy high arch support, which you can just see all these nails, all the construction, because these are the heaviest duty work boots in the world. And so when you make a cowboy boot in that fashion, you get some heavy duty cowboy boots. But because of that, these guts are really heavy and really redundant, and some people are not gonna like this for a cowboy boot. Number 8, Tecovas, because it's very traditional. If you remove that top permanent insole, this would be a really good traditional boot, but they threw that top layer on there to give it just a little bit more squish and more comfort. So still really good, but because it's not traditional, 8. And then tied, I did decide on a tie. Chisos, and I bet you couldn't guess it, Unmarked, tied for number 1. We gave both 10 points because I already tallied up all the points. It'll screw the entire point system up. But these are about as clean and perfect as it gets. You've got all veg tan all the way through, like no synthetics whatsoever. They both have a veg tan toe stiffener, heel counters, internal heel counters, arch support, steel shanks, but still having plenty of leather support on the inside, full leather heel stacks. This is about as good of a cowboy boot on the inside as anyone can make. And they're like half the price of Lucchese's. Like, that is insane to me. How can you be Lucchese, who's known for being the best cowboy boots in the world, and you're closer to Tony Lama than you are to Chisos? And Chisos has been around for like 5 years. Wild. Same thing with Unmarked. Unmarked's a pretty young company, and so these time-honored brands, sometimes you just can't trust them. Next to comfort. And some people are gonna have different opinions on this based on if you like a really hard platform, if you like lots of squish. And instead of going through every single one, the top 3 are number 3 with 8 points, Tecovas. Exactly the same reason we talked about. It's basically a traditional cowboy boot, but with added comfort. And it is very comfortable. And it's a nice low heel, so you're not walking on your tippy toes all day. Easy to break in. Tecovas kills it. They make really good cowboy boots. Number 2 with 9 points, the Durangos. I do love these boots a lot. But because you've got that unique shank on the inside, you got all that foam and all that squish, even though it might not be the best way to make a cowboy boot, it makes them really comfortable cowboy boots. And then no surprise, number 1, the brand that's known for making damn comfortable cowboy boots, Chisos. It's about as traditional as it gets, but they built these boots around receiving this super thick, soft, squishy, it's like 4 different densities. You got like gel, you got a harder foam, a softer foam, and that top layer of leather. And it's made to receive that. So you don't have your toes squished. It's made, the instep is made to accommodate that little bit of extra bulk. You can replace it, you can remove it, you put your orthotics in, you can do whatever you want. And because they do so well at all these little things, like the seam, like the heel counter, like all the edges coming together, across the board, somehow every aspect of this boot is more comfortable than like every other boot in this lineup. And that's what separates Chisos, because not only are they some of the highest quality boots in the entire world, they're easily some of the most comfortable cowboy boots. So pretty easy choice there. But also it's not traditional. You're sat on a big comfortable insole. Some people want that veg tan leather, so do what you will with that. Another lightning round, style. Super subjective, super opinion based. 0 points, last place, Los Altos. Then I go to Stetson with 1 point, Ariat with 2 points, Nix with 3. I love the Nix, but it does not look that much like a cowboy boot. It looks like a Pacific Northwest boot shaped into a cowboy boot. I still like it, I dig it. I want a shorter version of it, but if you're looking at it from a cowboy boot perspective, not the most cowboy. And then we go to Tony Lama with 4 points, Justin and Rhodes with 5 points, Rio with 5 points, Boulay with 6 points, Thursday with 6 points, Lucchese with 7. I love the look of Lucchese's, honestly, but because they use such terrible leather, look how wrinkly and terrible that looks. It's hard to give it any points above that because the materials they use make it look worse than it is. Red Wing, 7 points. I like the look of this a lot. I just wish it had some more traditional stuff, like maybe leather heel counter or a heel stack. And even though I'm supposed to be viewing this fully just for style, it still dissuades me when you got some weird stuff going on the inside. Then to the top 3 with 8 points, we've got a tie between Chisos and Tecovas. You know, this comes down to a lot of personal preference. Yeah, it's so hard to choose, honestly. It's tough to really, it all comes, like the top 3 just come down to my personal taste. I love all the top 5, honestly, but you gotta choose somehow. And then number 2 with 9 points, Unmarked. I just love these boots. I love the higher heel. I like the blue suede thing. I love the stitching pattern on the upper. It's just a really good looking cowboy boot, and it's done really well, and it's half the price of the Lucchese's. And for number 1, my favorite looking cowboy boot, I just love these Durangos. I love, like, this reminds me of like the 70s style, like paint jobs on like big Broncos and trucks and stuff, where it's all the multicolor with like the black paint underneath. I love the square toe that this boot was built on. I love these pull loops right here. I just love everything about it. And I like the little bit lower heel. Everything about this is my favorite looking cowboy boot. You might I gave these 0 points. You might think they're the best looking cowboy boots in the entire world. And that's why this particular one is very subjective. And final, last category when it comes to, because we just did 10 categories of like the materials and the actual boots, but I think value matters a lot, especially after seeing this. You know, you spend $1,000 and you basically get a $250 boot. So we'll do some final rankings with the value and without the value so you can get a couple different ideas. So who is the absolute worst value? Well, tied for worst with 1 point, Lucchese and Los Altos. So it's a gimmicky thing, it's just not a great boot. But Lucchese, you guys are the name. Like I just saw a TikTok the other day, it's like, buy Lucchese's, they're the best in the world, they'll last you 10 years. All the comments are like, these are the best boots in the world. They're clearly not, they're really cheap. They're not as cheap as like those really cheap Ariats, but for $1,000, you're gonna tell me you're gonna get this on the inside of your boot, this unfinished seam, this rough on the inside, this terrible of leather for $1,000? Yikes. Lucchese, get your shit together. That is embarrassing. You've been around forever. You're the name of the industry. Make better boots. Next, in terms of value, we got the Nix, Boulé, and the Rio. Rio's pretty obvious. It's elephant skin, so it inflated the price for what you actually get. Boulé, pretty expensive, $335, but look how rough it is on the inside. I'm hoping that Boulé makes some other better boots because they have tons and tons of boots, so hopefully this is just one stinker. And then Nix, you know, this is the price of a Pacific Northwest boot, if not more actually, $730. And so when it comes to needing a cowboy boot, and most people are not gonna need all this Pacific Northwest underneath your foot, all this really thick, heavy leather up the shaft of your boot. And so once again, even though it's probably the most durable out of all the boots in the lineup, it's not necessarily the best value. And so I'll give it a 2. That's pretty brutal. Yeah, but they're $730, they're very expensive. But if you want this for like the heaviest duty work boot that's a cowboy boot shape, you might gladly spend $730. Next with 3 points, Stetson. It's affordable, but also pretty terrible. With 4 points, we got Ariat and Tony Lama. You know, I talked a lot of trash about Ariat with a handful of caveats, but it is a very affordable boot. So it's under $200, and so you get the cowboy look, but it's gonna feel a lot more like a sneaker because it basically is built like a sneaker. And sometimes that matters more. We got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 way tie with 6 points. Starting with Chisos at $595. This is about as good as it gets, but you got to keep in mind that anytime you're buying any quality product, every dollar you spend initially is going to get better, and then you start getting to the upper echelons, and you're still going to get improvements for every dollar you spend, but it's a lot less. There's a point of diminishing return with quality, and so when it comes to value, a lot of people are going to say like, I would literally rather have 4 pairs of these than 1 pair of those, even though these are built like sneakers. Everyone's value equation is completely different. And in terms of just trying to look at it as objectively as possible, not through the lens of a nerd that loves leather and boots and high quality stuff, that's why I put it there. And then the rest, you know, Tony Lama, Justin, Red Wing, Rhodes, Unmarked, Durango, all really good boots are still a good value boot. I think anything above 5 is like still worth buying in the Justin, Red Wing, Rhodes, Unmarked, and Durangos. And then for number 2 best quality, because all those were technically tied for 3rd, Tecovas. You know, it's a very affordable boot, $295, really well built. It's very traditional, but still having some modern elements to it. It looks like a traditional cowboy boot. It feels like a traditional cowboy boot with a little bit extra comfort. And it's under $300. Pretty impressive. And then number 1 best quality per dollar spent. Ooh, I think you could actually go either way on this, because I might change my mind on this. I'm gonna switch these actually. I'm gonna go number 2 Thursday. I would put it as number 1 because it's $220. It's really well built. If it was built like their other boots, a lot more finished on the inside, a lot neater on the inside, I would give it number 1. So I'm switching my mind midstream. Put Tecovas as number 1 for all the reasons I just said. So now to the final results. We're gonna start without the value added into the equation, just the top 10 most important things of cowboy boots and materials, traditional cowboy boots and manufacturing techniques. Who's the absolute worst? Los Altos, actually, 31 points. Then Ariat at 32, Stetson at 33, Boulé at 42, Justin at 46, Tony Lama at 52. Oh, Lucchese. 55 points. Golly, Lucchese got beat out by Rhodes. You know, because most of those initial boots were just affordable brands, but Lucchese got beat out by Rhodes. Rhodes got 59 points. Nix got 60 points. Last caveat, you know, because I'm a big fan of Nix. This is not a cowboy boot. This is a Pacific Northwest boot. that's in the shape of a cowboy boot, and so it just didn't perform well, and I still think at the end of this video, this is the most durable of all the cowboy boots. So 60 points with Nyx. 62 points, actually performed better than I thought in the overall tally score, Rio. I would like to revisit Rio. I'd like to revisit Rio, Boulé, and a couple of these brands to really see what their other offerings look like, because I just can't imagine all their boots are like that. Next up, Thursday with 64 points. It's pretty good showing. Then Red Wing with 67 points. Durango, 75 points. It actually performed really well. You know, it's right in that middle zone of like, it's not the cheap cowboy boots, but it's not the expensive cowboy boots. It rides right in the middle where you get a lot of upgraded materials. Still plenty of room for improvement. A pretty good showing for Durango, 75 points. And then to the top 3 without value. Tecovas with 81 points. This is a good boot. I just love, this is exactly what I would expect from Tecovas. I think they absolutely killed it. Then to the top 2. Surprisingly close race. Number 2, Unmarked. 86 points. This is about as good of a cowboy boot as you can get. You know, it's really, really high quality through and through. There's a few things where it kind of stumbled out of the blocks. You know, this lining's a little rough. This edge could definitely be improved. This edge could be improved. There's plenty of room for improvement, but this performed so well for such a young company, making such extreme and unique styles of boots. They're down in Mexico trying to blend traditional ways of doing things with new age technology and style, and really trying to take cowboy boots to the next level in terms of quality and aesthetics. And I just like what they do. I think they deserve that number 2 spot. And hopefully they make some improvements on these. Then number 1, Chisos. God, it just performed well across the entire board. 97 points. Is that actually right? Is that 97? Like, how many did they win? They had to have won a bunch. Leather they did not win. Heel counter they did not win. Construction they did not win. They did win shaft seam. They won lining. Wow, you know what? Unmarked got a lot of number 1 spots. So really, they just performed well across the board. Like, not just middle, but like upper part of the scores across the entire board. Because Unmarked, I think, won more categories. Because Unmarked won heel counter, construction, lasting material, guts, 4-2, 4-3. Yeah, it technically won 4 categories where Chisos won 3, but Chisos performed well across the board without some of these little faults here. So to me, pretty obviously, Chisos won this. It's hard to say that Chisos isn't the highest quality cowboy boots that you can buy. It has everything you want in a cowboy boot, plus the comfort of having modern stuff like the insole. Pretty impressive. And then 2 final results minus the value. Ariat 28 points, Los Altos 30 points, Stetson 30 points, Boulé 40, and Justin at 40, Tony Lama 48. Rhodes 53, Lucchese once again, middle lower part of the pack, 54 points. Beat out by Thursday at 56 points. Nyx at 58 points. Rio's at 60 points. Red Wing at 61. Durango 69 points. Not bad for Durango. Kind of my dark horse of the race. And then top 3, we've got, so number 3 spot, Tecovas. Really high quality, really affordable. This isn't even considering the value, and it's still placed at number 3 spot. And to me, this is just a traditional cowboy boot with a couple modern adjustments, like the permanent insole that I'd rather have as a removable insole, the composite shank, lower heel. It's just a really good cowboy boot for a really affordable price. It deserves number 3 for sure. Number 2 spot, gotta go with Unmarked. It's a really, really good cowboy boot, but there's a couple things that they could improve on. It technically won 4 of the categories, whereas the number 1 boot only won 3. And so it's a really, really good showing. This is about as good of a cowboy boot as anybody can make, about as good of a cowboy boot that money can buy while still being at scale that you can actually buy it. Like, there's probably some one-off like cowboy boot shops that'll make you one custom boot, but we're talking about brands, you know? And it's impressive that even for what it's like 600 bucks. Yeah, it's just under 600 bucks. You can get as high quality of a cowboy boot as you can literally buy. Then you've got garbage like Lucchese's for twice the price. It's half the boot. And number 1, not too big of a surprise, but actually, you know, I was still a little bit surprised that it did so well because Unmarked won a few more of the categories. Chisos. It's about as perfect as a cowboy boot that we've ever seen. It's traditional while still blending into modern with this nice soft squishy insole. It has very unique style and patterning in the uppers. Full leather all the way through. If you look at this boot compared to the very first Chisos we've cut apart, they've vastly improved everything across the board in a very short amount of time. They're a super young company, and their whole slogan of damn comfortable cowboy boots is about as true as it gets. And they're about as high quality as it gets. So Chisos, damn. Impressive showing. And Unmarked and Tecovas. All 3 of those brands ought to be really, really proud of themselves. It's crazy that all top 3, Tecovas has been around for like maybe 10 years. Unmarked's been around for less than 10 years. Chisos has been around for less than 10 years. the new kids on the block schooled all these old school brands that are the known cowboy boot brands, and Tony Lama, Lucchese, you know, all those brands suffered so bad. Stetson, Boulay. Meanwhile, these boots outperformed it across the board. Obviously, some of those boots are more affordable, but not Lucchese's, they're twice the price. So what would be my personal pick? If I had to choose 3 boots, what would I choose? Obviously, I'm gonna choose some Chisos. Easy choice. I love the Durangos. They're affordable, they're comfortable. There's room for improvement here, but I really, really like these boots. I like the look of them, I like the feel of them, I like the innovation they're working on here. And third, so I've got my good, comfortable, but like true cowboy boots. I've got some style, like roper style, I could do a lot of other things in. I think I would go with either a pair of Red Wings or Nicks. I want to choose this one, but I just hate that that's not lined. I'm gonna mulligan this. I'm actually gonna choose those Thorogood kickers that we did the whole kicker series. So let me go grab that so you just see them on the screen. I'm pulling a mulligan plus a shameless plug. This is what I would choose. This is what I actually want to round out my like cowboy boot options. I want like a work boot. And we did this basically the same video with more of work pull-on cowboy boots, like kickers, pull-on work boots. And this was my favorite. I just love Thorogood. It's comfortable, I love the leather. It's traditionally built with still having modern materials. I love it. So that's what I would choose. Plus the Sundance boot. I'll record something to kind of tell you a little bit more about this in the actual video. You probably already watched it actually, because it's the end of the video. But the big part of the reason I did this series was I wanted to gather as much information and educate myself on cowboy boots so I could make the Sundance boot. So I just make another cowboy boot. I wanted to make this like shorter, still heeled cowboy boot that still has a toe bug, nice pointy Packer last, a 690 last from White's. That's actually a lot, like that's actually a Western last, and no heel counter, nice and clean. Ooh, love this boot. So get ready for the drop of this. But that should be everything you need to know about cowboy boots, especially the big players in the game. Keep in mind, not every single one of these boots represents the entire brand, like we talked about with Ariat. Same thing with Nicks, and same thing with some of these brands that didn't quite fit this niche video's criteria. But now you have everything from $1,000 boots and what you're getting, all the way down to sub $200 boots, what to expect in those price range, what to be looking for. And you can go out and say, okay, this boot's 300 bucks. Let me go look at this video and see how this compares to the $300 boots that we did in this video. And this is probably the most comprehensive cowboy boot video in the entire internet. So thank you guys for all your support. Let me know what else you want us to do, what other cowboy boots you think we missed. Don't forget the drop of the Sundance boot. I'm so hyped about these. It's the whole reason I did this entire series, was to do research for this. So thank you guys, I appreciate it. That was the longest video I've ever recorded in my entire life. So thank you guys, see ya.